Chapter 13. The unveiling, the glass house glittered like a crown on the edge of Valoria. Its mirrored walls caught the fading sun and flung it back across the city in shards of orange and gold. The Barringtons had spared no expense for the unveiling. Hundreds of guests, flowing champagne, a string quartet playing in the grand atrium. Marcus stood among the crowd, pretending to be just another journalist covering the spectacle. But his eyes weren't on the champagne towers or the chandelier that stretched 2 stories above. They were on the walls. Everywhere he looked, glass. Glass that reflected, distorted, multiplied. He caught his own face again and again, scattered across surfaces like a man already divided. Evelyn's voice echoed in his memory. Look inside the walls. He slipped away from the crowd down a side corridor where waiters bustled with trays. The corridor narrowed, turned sharply. For a moment he was alone. That was when he noticed it. A panel slightly off-center. A seam where there shouldn't be one. Marcus pressed his hand to it. The panel shifted. Behind it, a dark stairwell descending into the guts of the house. His pulse raced. Evelyn had been here. Chapter 14. Margaret's suspicion. Margaret Barrington stood at the top of the grand staircase, surveying the crowd below. Her diamonds sparkled beneath the chandelier, her smile flawless, her posture unyielding. But her mind was elsewhere. Evelyn Castor. She couldn't stop thinking about the girl. The car on the bridge had been too neat, too perfect. The shoes placed just so, as though Evelyn had been arranging a stage set. Margaret knew performances when she saw them. And now, as she watched the guests clinking glasses and praising the brilliance of the architecture, she felt Evelyn's presence in the walls. Margaret leaned toward her husband. I don't like this house. Charles gave her a dismissive glance. It's magnificent. It's dangerous, Margaret whispered. It doesn't feel like ours. It feels like hers. Charles chuckled, sipping his whiskey. Paranoia doesn't suit you, Margaret. Evelyn Castor is dead. Stop letting her haunt you. But Margaret wasn't so sure. Chapter 15. The vault below. Marcus descended carefully, his phone flashlight trembling in his hand. The stairwell was narrow, concrete walls unfinished, the sound of the gala muffled above him. At the bottom, a steel door loomed. It wasn't on any blueprint he'd seen. No keypad, no handle, just a heavy, seamless door set into the wall. He crouched, running his fingers along the base. Dust. Scratches. As though the door had been opened recently. His pulse quickened. This was it. The vault Evelyn had spoken of. He pressed his ear against the cold metal. And then, faintly, he heard something. Breathing. He staggered back, heart hammering. Someone was inside. Marcus raised his phone, snapped a quick picture of the door, and turned to leave. But as he climbed the stairs, he thought he saw movement in the shadows at the top. A flicker. A silhouette. For a heartbeat, he swore he saw her. Evelyn. Chapter 16. And then she was gone. Adrian's dead. Adrian Barrington leaned against the bar of a private club, glass of bourbon sweating in his hand. The laughter and jazz around him did nothing to drown out the weight of the text still burning in his mind. Tonight, cash. He was out of time. The man slid into the seat beside him without a sound. Dressed in black, face ordinary in a way that was more terrifying than a scarred brute's ever could be. You have it? The man asked softly. Adrian swallowed. You'll get it. Just not tonight. The man smiled politely. We don't like waiting. Adrian's hand shook. My father. He'll kill me if he finds out. Then perhaps you should be more afraid of us than him. The man stood, straightened his jacket, and left as silently as he had come. Adrian's bourbon tasted like ash. For the first time, he wondered if the glass house might not only be a palace, but a cage, and if he was already locked inside. Chapter 17. Whispers in the Walls. That night, Marcus returned to the mansion under the guise of requesting an interview with Charles Barrington. Instead, he wandered. He moved through mirrored corridors that seemed endless, each reflection multiplying him until he felt like he was being followed by 100 versions of himself. He ducked through a narrow servant's passage, his pulse quickening as he retraced his path toward the hidden stairwell. The steel door at the bottom was still there. This time, he pressed his hand against it. The metal was warm. And then, he heard it again, breathing. "Evelyn?" he whispered. Silence, then so faint he thought he might have imagined it. "Marcus." His blood turned to ice. He spun, flashlight beam darting across concrete. Nothing. The stairwell was empty. When he turned back, the breathing had stopped, but his phone buzzed in his pocket. A new message from an unknown number. "You're getting close." Chapter 18. Margaret's Unease. Margaret stood alone in her dressing room, pearls coiled in her hands like a serpent. She hadn't told Charles about the sound. The faint click of heels echoing in the hallway last night, long after the servants had gone to bed. The whisper at the edge of her dreams. "Do you know what happens to people who dig too deep?" Her reflection in the mirror stared back at her, flawless as always, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the house was alive, watching, listening. She had told Charles once already, "This place isn't ours, it's hers." Now, as she turned the pearls in her fingers, she realized the truth. Evelyn Castor wasn't gone. And if Margaret didn't act soon, the Barrington family would be destroyed from within. The debt collectors, Adrian stumbled out of the club just past midnight, his shirt damp with sweat despite the chill in the air. Two men followed. He knew before they even spoke. They flanked him in the alley, shadows sharp under the glow of a broken streetlight. "You've had your chances," one said. Adrian tried to laugh, but it cracked in his throat. "I can get it. My family." "Your family?" The other leaned in, breath sour. "Your family doesn't even know how far you've sunk." A knife glinted. Adrian's back hit the brick wall. His mouth went dry. Then, out of the darkness, a voice. Calm, feminine. "Not tonight." The men froze. A shadow shifted at the mouth of the alley. A figure stood there. Tall, coat hood pulled low, but unmistakably a woman. The men swore under their breath and backed away, disappearing into the night like smoke. Adrian blinked, heart hammering. "Who?" But when he looked again, the woman was gone. Chapter 20. Marcus finds the trap. Marcus couldn't shake the message, "You're getting close." He returned to the hidden stairwell by day when the Barringtons were busy entertaining architects and investors. The door looked the same, impenetrable, cold. But this time he noticed something new. A thin slit above the frame. A vent. He pulled a small camera from his bag, a tool of the trade, and slid it inside. The screen flickered to life. He saw a narrow chamber beyond. Mirrors lined the walls. In the center, a chair. And strapped into it, a mannequin, its face covered with a porcelain mask. Marcus's stomach turned. But then the camera shifted, catching something scratched into the mirrored wall. Words. "They will all sit here eventually." His hand trembled as he pulled the camera back. Evelyn wasn't just haunting this house. She was building a theater of punishment. Chapter 21. The reappearance. Margaret couldn't sleep. Again, the sound of heels. Again, the whispers in the walls. She rose from her bed and walked through the corridors alone, silk robe trailing like smoke. The house was silent, save for the faint hum of electricity running through the glass. At the far end of the east wing, she saw her. A reflection first, just a silhouette in the mirrored wall. Then the figure turned. Evelyn. Her face pale, eyes burning, lips curved in the faintest smile. Margaret gasped, heart stuttering. "You..." But when she blinked, the reflection was gone. The corridor was empty. Still, her hands shook as she clutched the glass wall, breath fogging against it. Evelyn Castor was alive, and she was already inside the house. Chapter 22. Charles notices the cracks. Charles Barrington prided himself on control. Control of markets, of politicians, of people. But lately he'd noticed slippage. Investors were skittish. Papers were missing from his study. The contractors whispered in corners when they thought he wasn't listening. And then there was the house itself. He stood in the grand atrium one evening, glass of brandy in hand, gazing up at the soaring walls of mirrored steel. For a moment he felt pride. But then, he saw something strange. A crack. Hairline thin, running down one panel of glass. Charles blinked, stepped closer. When he touched it, the crack vanished. Just a reflection of his brandy glass, distorted. And yet, he couldn't shake the unease. For the first time in decades, Charles Barrington wondered if he was not the hunter, but the hunted. Chapter 23. Marcus Cornered. Marcus returned to his apartment, tossing his recorder onto the desk. He had hours of audio, photographs of the vault door, even the chilling image of the mannequin in the chamber. Enough to blow the Barringtons' empire wide open. But when he opened his laptop, the files were gone. Every photo, every note, every scrap of evidence. Erased. He sat frozen, rage rising in his chest. He'd been hacked before, but this was surgical. Perfect. The lamp in his apartment flickered, and then his phone buzzed. Another message. Not yet. You'll ruin everything if you speak too soon. Marcus's blood ran cold. Evelyn wasn't just haunting the Barringtons. She was watching him too. Chapter 24. The First Strike. The Barringtons gathered in the glass house dining hall, the table gleaming beneath chandeliers. It began like any other evening. Margaret's sharp remarks, Adrian's nervous drinking, Charles's booming voice filling the room. Then the lights cut out. Pitch black. Adrian cursed. Margaret gasped. Charles barked for the staff. And then, slowly, the walls lit up. Not with light bulbs, with projections. Video, flickering across the mirrored panels, images from their pasts. Charles signing bribes. Margaret, whispering with lawyers in secret meetings. Adrian shoving chips across a casino table, drowning in debt. Their sins laid bare. Margaret screamed. Adrian staggered back from the table. Charles roared and hurled his glass at the wall, but the image only splintered and multiplied. And then, at the far end of the hall, a figure appeared in the flickering light. Evelyn, alive, smiling. "Welcome home," she whispered.